Welcome back to the BagFather. I'm Marlon Meer, also known as the BagFather himself.
And I'm Jen Zemba, also known as the Bag Lady. We're back for Season 2, diving even deeper into the world of baggage, innovation, and the people who make air travel actually work.
Last season, we went behind the scenes with everyone from airline leaders to tech pioneers. And this time we are leveling up, talking AI, automation, passenger experience, and the future of baggage.
Plus, plenty of laughs, stories from the ramps, and occasional lost bag mystery or two.
So whether you're in aviation, tech, or just love to travel, grab your headphones, subscribe, and join us as we unpack Season 2 of the BagFather.
Because in baggage, there's always more than what meets the belt.
Welcome back to the BagFather, the podcast where baggage isn't just part of the journey, it is the journey. My name is Marlon Meer, better known as the BagFather. And with me is my partner in baggage crime. It's Jen Zemba, or she's known around here, the Bag Lady. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks. Here we are, Season 2. Can you believe it?
Unbelievable. We are kicking off Season 2 with a bang, diving straight into the cutting edge of aviation security and screening. And our guest today is Greenberg. He's the founder and CEO of Quadridox, a company pushing the boundaries of what's possible with X-ray diffraction and AI-driven detection. If you ever wondered how the future of baggage screening will look like, faster, smarter, and more accurate, you're in the right place. So welcome, Dr. Greenberg.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I spent some time on your website, Joel, and I have to admit I got caught in a lot of rabbit holes. It is all very interesting, and just the science behind all of this is fascinating to me.
It must be because he comes straight out of a lab. You were related to Duke University and the research lab. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. I did my PhD there and then spent about 10 years at Duke as a faculty member. And here I am now. So it was a direct transfer from university life to entrepreneurship here at Quadratics.
Okay, but this is the short version of it. Can you give me the longer version? Because you woke up one morning in your Duke lab and you said, okay, how can I change airport security? That's too big of a step. So help me out.
Yeah. So started out. My background is in science and engineering, and was originally motivated in those technical problems, which I think so many people in the innovation space are. It's a question of what can be done, how can I solve this problem? And so started out, even perhaps naively, of the aviation security space, looking at new ways that we could combine old things like X-ray measurement with new things like new algorithms, new computational approaches, and even more recently, rolling AI into this overall process. And so where we started over 10 years ago, almost 15 years ago now, was looking at how we could make new measurements with new components in a way that was different than what was done before. And over the years, that what started out as kind of a basic laboratory research experiment turned into a very pointed solution for some of these aviation security programs or problems that we have. That leads us to where we are today. So I'm happy to expound upon that more, but I want to make sure it wasn't a wake up one day and aha, I've solved the problem for everyone. It was very much a process.
It's funny because when I started with my BagVision startup in 2017, nothing much changed when it came to baggage. It's basically 40 years the same. Same goes a little bit for X-ray and CT scanning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's surprising how there's been a flow of technology, largely from medical over to security. And so the newest and latest and greatest CT systems, the computed tomography systems that are showing up at checkpoints around the world, are kind of security relevant versions of the same CT scanners that have been in hospitals for almost 50 years. And so as far as the technology goes, there are absolutely changes that have been implemented both in the hardware and the software to be relevant to security. But fundamentally, it's the same measurements that have been going on in hospitals diagnosing all sorts of ailments for decades now.
I cannot imagine a world where companies like Smiths Detection, Rapiscan, Leidos are not experimenting. So what places you in what unique position?
Yeah, no, I think we have to look back. There have certainly been conversations around X-ray diffraction, this kind of scatter imaging for improved, more accurate bag evaluation. But there are really a couple pieces I think that were missing in some of the earliest approaches. Some of that is computational in terms of just computational resources needed to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Some of them are algorithmic. And the last piece is components, that there are just fundamentally advances in components that allow new kinds of sensors, new kind of measurements to be made. And so all those things coming together allows Quadridox at this time point now to maybe introduce something different, even if it's in the vein of some things that have been thought about in the past.
So what you're explaining is really very technical, but can you give a little bit better background on what exactly this technology is and maybe an example that would help everybody understand what it does?
Yeah.
Come on, Jen, didn't you do your homework?
I did my homework. I'm trying to help everybody else do theirs.
Yeah, but this is really easy. So let's go on. Next question, Joel. No. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. This is complicated, right?
Yeah, and I think it's important to see the trees as well as the forest in this whole story. So, yeah, I guess backing up just a little bit, not talking about algorithms and components and measurements, kind of at the fundamental level, X-ray imaging in its most conventional form is you shine X-rays at something and you look at the shadow that it casts on the other side. And that's really great because the shadows cast provide really nice pictures about the shapes of the objects in your bag. And even how much, like how dark the shadow is, can tell you something about a little bit of the composition of the objects. But it's not quite enough information to unambiguously determine whether that material in your bag is a threat or not a threat. And so what's the extra information that's needed is something that'll actually tell you, is that benign looking shape actually made out of something that can explode? And to do that, the new kind of X-ray measurement, the new thing that we're doing here is not just looking at those shadows, but also looking at the X-rays that bounce off the materials. Those scattered X-rays carry with them information kind of at the atomic scale about what each of the objects in the bag is made of. And that extra information about what it's actually made of is the thing that can distinguish between benign objects that are perfectly fine to ride on the airplane and prohibited or threat objects that definitely should not be on the airplane. So it's that extra bit of information, and then kind of going into the computational side, being able to make use of that information to make automated decisions without a human in the loop, without having to have a person look at a picture, but instead look at these material fingerprints that the scatter measurements make available. That's really the new piece. And it's the piece I think that's going to change how inspection and detection is done.
Okay, Joel, I know a thing or two about AI and how algorithms are trained. So help me out. How do you do this with data? Because you started from scratch, right?
That's right. Yeah. So it is absolutely true that having a good detection algorithm is something that takes work. It's not something that magically happens. It is the case that there are a lot of two-dimensional images, cats, various trading sets that you can find on the internet. And so there's been a lot of amazing work done so that you can almost just plug and play for kind of 2D image generation or 2D image detection. But what we're talking about here is a much more esoteric data set. We're talking about three-dimensional volumes, your bags. We're talking about this whole signature or fingerprint that goes on top of that. And so it is a bespoke algorithm that takes a lot of curation and data collection and time spent to be able to prove it out. And so, yeah, step one is design and build a system. Step two is collect a lot of data. And step three is keep working on algorithms until they're the place that you want them to be.
That's ongoing work, right? Jen, is there a direction you want to go in this conversation?
Oh, absolutely. I want to know, when are we going to see this technology? When are we going to see the benefits of what Quadratics brings?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So we are happy to be able to be working with the Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology Directorate, and in conjunction with the TSA. And so a lot of what's possible comes from our projects with those agencies. And so we're really excited because right now our check baggage system is actually undergoing some of that testing, and it'll be making its way into an airport for a data collection next year. And we're actually doing something I think that's never been done before, which is putting our X-ray diffraction system in line in an active airport line. So there obviously have been systems that have been put in, but this is, as far as we know, the first inline X-ray diffraction system that'll be running at belt speed, not slowing anything down, not diverting bags, that'll let us get into an airport, prove it out in a real world environment, and understand exactly what the opportunities for performance improvements are in the field.
I think that data is really important to understand what problems are you solving and how much more efficient is it actually, and are they really scared now it's misdetection and what you guys are doing? What's happening?
Well, I certainly won't try to speak for Smiths, but
No, don't.
I see the healthy competition, I think, between the Smiths diffraction system and Quadradox's system. To be honest, in order for a system to become adopted, especially a new technology like this, it's no light lift. And so it's actually fantastic that there are alternative architectures, alternative companies pursuing this, because it gives us the opportunity to not just take our word for it, but to look at the other competition that we have in the space. There are a couple companies doing some great work, and Quadradox is glad to be included in this conversation. And so, like we said, it's not a trivial thing, especially in the United States, when the rollout is across the entirety of U.S. airports. It's a huge responsibility and a huge opportunity. So we're excited to be able to be working alongside others who are demonstrating exactly the capabilities that X-ray diffraction brings to the table for aviation security.
And Jen, what do these things cost? You know that probably, or not?
That I do not know.
You do not know. Let's ask Joel. He probably knows.
Something in the couple $100,000 range for a typical system. It can go up, can go down, but I'll say that's the ballpark.
What is the throughput capacity then? How do I need to see that?
So throughput is actually a really interesting thing, because at base, you would want to start with talking about belt speed. And belt speed is something that's obviously going to be a bottleneck. But there's also a number of things that go to like the true, we'll say, throughput. And that involves the spacing of bags, kind of the average size of bags, the time it takes to adjudicate a bag. And so if you look at the entire baggage handling system plus security system, plus the time it takes for someone to open up bags, I think that's the true throughput that you'd really want to consider, is how many bags start the process and how long does it take a bag to make it onto an airplane, and not just how quickly do they move on the conveyor belt. So I can start off with the easy one. The conveyor belt speeds are kind of in this 20 to 30 centimeters per second range here in the United States. They go faster in Europe, more like the 50 centimeters per second. In theory. And that's actually one of the things too. Check baggage, as opposed to the checkpoint or carry-on, is more continuously running. So for most passengers, they've been at the checkpoint and they've seen the bags moving through the carry-on, in which case you're often seeing the belt stop.
There's 45 seconds after it's been scanned minimum before it gets moved along. Is that a similar timeline for your product?
Yeah, absolutely. We're working to those exact same constraints. So our system, it does these amazing measurements, but from the overall ecosystem point of view, it kind of looks like just an extra bit of conveyor belt. So you'd pull out some conveyor, roll our system in the back end of one of these CT systems, and we have to play by all the same rules. So we need to be able to report information about the bag to the baggage handling system about the status of the bag, the status of the system. But at the end of the day, it either goes up or down or left or right, kind of within the same timescales and constraints of the existing systems.
And talking about existing systems, Joel, I would like to understand a little bit better. You mentioned that little word that you were able to recognize the material as well, based on fingerprinting. Let's say I have a bottle of water in my, or a bottle of liquids. How does that work?
Yeah. So X-ray diffraction, the scatter measurement, is definitely most famous for looking at crystalline materials. So the I'd say most famous example is the double helix structure of DNA. So crystallized DNA, put it in an X-ray diffraction machine, and you can see exactly the fact that it has this double helix structure. So there's been a lot of work done over years in science labs to crystallize materials, make a diffraction measurement, and know exactly its structure. We're not operating quite at that level of material specificity. We're not solving for the exact structure. We're more doing material identification or detection. And so that broadens the ability to work with materials that aren't just crystals, but other amorphous materials, gels, liquids like the water that you mentioned. And so all of those materials have structure, kind of the relative spacing between the atoms. And that is at kind of its core, the fingerprint of the material. And so when we look at how the X-rays bounce off water as opposed to some other liquid, we get this additional fingerprint, this additional set of features that we can use to distinguish that liquid from other liquids. And actually, if you flip it around the other way, the CT system, which is based largely on density, it gets into trouble sometimes when you have a given material prepared in different ways. So you can actually create different densities of materials based on how you package or process it. And so it's very robust to a lot of those kind of ambiguities that might show up in CT measurements, because it's looking at this kind of fundamental property of the material, like where are the atoms relative to one another. And really, the science is well known. It's the engineering task of being able to do that quickly and with all the clutter of the bag and have that answer within 45 seconds. That's the real interesting aspect of the technology.
So is that where machine learning comes in then? Once you start identifying what liquids really are, being able to put those in a database?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we end up with these signatures, and it is not something, no matter how much a person might want to stare at these diffraction signatures, there is zero expectation that we are going to train security officers to memorize that stuff. So it's an interesting place because it absolutely requires a machine learning or an AI type automated decision-making tool to assess the information and make a decision.
And this is funny, yeah, because you also said that you were looking at other industries and other segments. You chose baggage. Probably you thought, oh, baggage, that's easy. Let's go into baggage. Well, that was a wrong bet, but okay. Hey, tell me a little bit more. What kind of? I can imagine healthcare will be a big user. Or what are you looking into?
Yeah. Yeah, so I will say we have had a pretty open mind over the history of Quadridox, and we've had the opportunity to explore a number of different markets and sectors. I think baggage is particularly interesting because at this moment in time, the existing systems are, I think, recognized as being limited in their capabilities. And there's a strong desire to go beyond some of the throughput or even the detection performance limitations, go beyond that. And that pulls in new technology. And some of the other spaces where I think that this technology has absolute value to add, like medical imaging, if you can believe it, it's sometimes even slower to implement changes in the hospital as it is to the airport. I think they might be tough competition. But the pull that we've been seeing and the near-term need for it in baggage is something that pulled us into this aviation market more specifically.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is just crazy, that we're baggage and healthcare on the same plane. I love it. Finally, puts
Well,
baggage
it
in an
is.
important
I
spot.
think in this particular case, it's interesting because, like I said, so much of the security CT is derived from medical CT. This is an interesting case where security is actually leading the charge on new imaging that could then trickle back to medical. So I think there's definitely a synergy between those two different markets.
A lot of people have a lot of baggage, I would say. So there's there's a bridge to. It's interesting, because you're saying nothing has changed, and we need to work on efficiency on certain airports. I'm familiar with this project for international remote baggage screening for exactly that, and making sure that baggage are screened abroad before they are brought into the US. I would like to learn more about you as a company and how you will expand to the rest of the world and making sure we can do, based on your technology, international remote baggage screening. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
absolutely.
where's the funding coming from? Is it Duke University or your mother-in-law? Tell me.
Yeah. Well, we have had the great opportunity to be funded by various government agencies that are interested in seeing this innovation proceed and
I can
seeing it
imagine. I can
move
imagine. Yeah.
from what was honestly a technology readiness level zero, glimmer in someone's eye at the university into something now, like I said, that's moving into a real airport. So it's unfortunately not my mother-in-law, but it is the various government organizations that have funded us to this point. And going beyond that, though, I think that there is a very meaningful potential valley of death between successful programs and successful demonstrations and deployment of real systems in any meaningful quantity. And so we are excited. The first step is showing that it works. And beyond that, I think we've been working very closely with both US and other agencies abroad to understand how the requirements and how the certification process are amenable to new technologies like X-ray diffraction. I think in general, the goal is to kind of have a technology blind test where you just say, can you detect the threats in these bags? And I don't care how you do it. So I think that there's a very meaningful amount of progress made on that front towards ECAC, TSA, other organizations understanding how to test these systems and how to show that they actually are doing what they're doing. Because at no point should anyone ever take my word for it. We fully recognize that there are professionals and agencies who do this. And we're excited about the challenge of being able to actually demonstrate that it does what we say it does.
And how do you deal with the right talent to work on this? Because talent is scarce as well.
Yeah, we've been really lucky and benefited a lot. So, for the listeners who don't know, we're in North Carolina, not too far from kind of Research Triangle, and that pulls with it a lot of very savvy engineers and technical persons, but also an amazing amount of talent coming out of the universities. And so we've had the great benefit of being able to be tied into pretty much almost all of the North Carolina universities. And so we haven't had to look too far to find some really stellar technical and business contributors to Quadridox.
You had touched a little earlier on some of the testing, and I'm curious about when installation and commissioning comes into play. Is that a much longer process than our standard systems are today, or how does that work out?
It's Jen, that's such an easy process.
5 minutes?
That's
Yeah.
water under the bridge. Go ahead, Joel.
Let's hear what Joel has to say.
Well, so one of the great things about not just going off on our own, in stealth mode and trying to imagine what the solution should be, and instead working directly with the customer and the end users throughout the entire development process, is I think we've had a really good opportunity to understand not just what the detector needs to do, the detection process, but also some of these other tangential things. So we've seen just how complex and expensive and difficult it can be to site a system and install a system. And so we've gone out of our way on engineering our system so that it's actually uh, fairly compact and fairly light and easy to maneuver. So we've now successfully moved and installed the system twice. Over the next few months, we've got several different testing engagements around the United States. And so we knew up front that it was going to be really important, as opposed to these systems that get sited and stay there for a decade, that we were going to actually be moving ours every month or two over the next 6 months as we do participate in this testing process.
And that's a great point, because that's always baggage design. How do we leave enough room to get these machines in and out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and I have another question, because I need to understand a little bit your test and our East Coast airports. You're obviously not giving me more information than that. I can be very persistent on that, so I can check them all. But what are the goals for these first tests? What are the KPIs for the first test? So what are the goals that needs to be achieved?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, understanding how the false alarm rates, so bags that alarm but don't actually have a threat in them, how can we reduce the false alarm rate without impacting anything about the throughput? In terms of it's nice when you can say, well, let's slow things down to speed things up, but here we're going for an even loftier goal, which is keep things running at pace, and reducing the number of bags that get sent over to the secondary inspection. Let's take a closer look. And so, from that point of view, and Marlon, to that point, I will say we haven't yet nailed down the airport, so that's something that's still open. It's not me being sneaky. It is still up in the air. But at the end of the day, I think the first and most impactful KPI is we were able to put it in a real world environment and show that some fraction of the bags that are currently being opened or sent to secondary inspection or secondary review don't need to be, and that those can just be automatically triaged in that first step and then proceed on the way to the airport, or to the airplane. So we're going to be doing kind of an order of 10,000 bag real stream of commerce data collection, and that complements the data collections that we're doing with live explosives, because obviously it's very easy to clear bags. The real thing is clearing bags and still making sure that you're alarming on all of the
Yeah.
items that need to alarm. So those two pieces of the data set are critical. But the output, first and foremost being we can maintain detection, reduce false alarm rate, and in so doing, overall bring efficiency and increased automation to this baggage inspection process.
Got it.
I'm
Jen,
curious if these machines are small enough. Can they be, have you talked curbside or off airport, maybe in a conrack or a garage? Help move us outside of the terminal for more space.
Yeah. Yeah. So the design that we have in the system that we're putting in right now is very focused first and foremost on the standard check bags. I think there are a lot of opportunities for closer to the gate or kind of longer bags. There are a history of number of different, slightly smaller systems that are used for special cases, skis and interesting things that otherwise would be difficult making the turns in the baggage handling system. So there's definitely interest there. There's also interest in the checkpoint. We actually have a smaller version of the system that could do a similar type of thing directly there for carry-on luggage. And then we've actually built and are in the process of testing a even smaller system, a tabletop system based on the same technology that would be there for secondary inspection, both in checkpoint and check baggage. So inevitably, bags will alarm and someone will need to take an item out of the bag and confirm that it is in fact not a threat. And the standard today is that process typically involves disassembling items, if it's large electronics, or at the very least opening them up if it's a thermos or a water bottle like that. And so we're applying the same technology into a little tabletop format that would allow for secondary inspection. So yeah, we have thoughts and aspirations well beyond just this inline check baggage scanning system.
I love it.
Fantastic. I'm so fascinated by the whole topic of this, and every aspect is just mind-boggling. What I would like to know is, so we have this short term, 2026. How does 2026 look like? And can you shine a light on the next 10 years?
Yeah. Well, it's lucky 10 years is long for a startup, but it's not that long in the aviation security domain. And so I think I can meld those two things together. There is currently interest, right now for innovation. So I'm very excited by how much uh, interest and how many programs are creeping up right now in terms of quicker ways to get certified, quicker ways to collect the data, to get out into the real world and do demonstrations. So I'm heartened by that overall trend. What Quadridox would love to do is to, first and foremost, see our systems serving in the U.S. I think is probably the first step, and then looking at rest of world, um, being able to have an impact on the security posture, and then step two, really set our sights on those next generation standards that truly do improve security across the world. So I think from kind of a mission point of view, that's what Quadratics is trying to accomplish is making sure that people can travel safely. And that's something that continues improving as we'll say the adversary continues evolving. So technology can't just stay still because the adversary is not. So getting through and having a certified system that's deployed in airports, I think is not a next year thing, but it's in the next year or two. I would love to continue over the next decade growing this technology. So like we said, that it's not just check baggage where we're launching first, but also basically everywhere that conventional X-ray imaging is used. I think there's benefit to adding X-ray diffraction to make that improved, smarter decision, so that passenger experience continues to improve and security posture continues to improve, and we can just have this seamless travel experience throughout the world.
So, and you stated that you started now 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Yeah,
How long ago did you start?
yeah, we're about
So,
7.5 years, going on to 8 years old.
so, and let's say in 10 years from now, is that what's your dream scenario? Where do you stand in 10 years? Because the ambition is there, I hear it, but where do you stand in 10 years?
Yeah. So I think there is certainly a healthy amount of competition with the aviation security domain, but there's also a healthy amount of cooperation. So what I envision first, like I said, I am not as big as my goals are. I would say it might be an overstretch to assume that Quadradox grows into the enormous institution that it would need in short order. And so what I would love to see is a collaborative effort between Quadradox and open-minded OEMs who want to add capability. And in so doing, there's a little, powered by Quadradox sticker, on each
I
of the
think
systems that are out there in the future.
So you had said 7 or 8 years you've been working on this. Did I catch that right?
That's
How
right.
all of that time have you been trying to work with governmental agencies, or was that later?
Yeah, so we largely with government agencies, but not just on the security front. So we've also done, like we said, a lot of work with the NIH and other medical, more hospital-centric uh, institutions. And so we kind of have already a number of real-world deployments and data collections in hospitals with our medical systems. And so this security focus is a more recent kind of last couple year focus to really hone in and put all of our attention into getting this product to market in the security space.
And talking about the technology itself, how many patents do you have or filed for patents?
Yeah. So we've got a handful of granted patents. We have several that are currently either filed or in process. I think it's a portfolio that protects what we're doing and the uniqueness of our approach. But with that said, my impression is, as I'm not a patent attorney, you can always have more patents. That always makes the story even that much simpler. But yeah, we've had the great fortune of having a fairly straightforward process of filing and getting awards. So I think we're doing something fairly unique and novel in our approach.
Of course, Joel, I did my homework a little bit to prepare for this session, so I knew that there were some patents, and I have to congratulate you on that one because I see a lot of potential in them. I have to say, and with that, I would like to ask some personal questions because we can talk forever, and I think we should do this offline one day because it's fascinating what you guys at Quadridox are doing.
Yeah.
And your strategy, I believe in it. Hopefully, OEMs are listening. We know that they are listening because some of them want to tap into this podcast. They should engage with you. And talking about that, what's the message to them? Because what's your message to all the executives that have a say in this ecosystem of scanning?
Yeah, it is non-trivial making changes. We've seen this, whether it's convincing the minds of physicians in the hospital or policymakers, on Capitol Hill to fund development and projects like what we've been doing. So we've benefited a lot from the openness. I would say to the executives out there, I get that it's not easy to change things, and there's a tendency to not fix things that aren't broken, but uh, the industry won't magically come up with new solutions without there being an opportunity, a business argument, an opportunity for those to actually become products and make it out. So I would say both to the regulatory bodies that there be an ability to certify and work with new technology, and for airlines, airports, in the U.S., the TSA, signaling that there is interest in testing new technology and procuring new technology, a process for doing so. That's an absolutely necessary step for the aviation security industry to keep improving. Otherwise, I think the message that's sent is build something and just focus on maintaining it for the rest of its lifetime and milk it for every ounce it's worth. And I think that ultimately that's diminishing returns for the overall aviation security space. So being open and having processes in place to adopt new technology, I think is absolutely critical.
I love it. Marlon, I don't know if you remember talking with Craig Mossford in season 1, and one of his comments was, about how little funding there really is to try and push forward new technology for screening technology. And I think he indicated at that point in time that it might take another large event in order to infuse more technology into our screening operations. So I love hearing that there's already conversations happening and we're not waiting for those things to happen before we bring something bigger and better forward.
Is a question that I have. Ultimately, what do passengers experience with your new approach? What's their benefits? What's in it for the passenger?
Yeah, I think my end goal would be for them to be less aware of the security. So I think ultimately it would be great if they had no idea that we were there. So like we said, less or no little note saying that your bags have been opened for the checked baggage space, that would be the way that passengers would know that we're secretly behind the scenes working for them. For the tabletop system or for the checkpoint kind of approach, it would be that there are less things being open, less bags being open, less PS5s being disassembled. So they can appreciate, we've seen some irate passengers when we've had the opportunity to go hang out in airports behind the scenes. You can imagine how unhappy people are when their best gaming device is being taken apart because something that the CT told them might be in there. So it would mostly be in the lack of hassle and the more convenient passage through security that you see.
So Jen, no PS5 for you in your bag.
All right, I'll leave it at home next time.
And finally, Joel, what's the one question you wish people ask more often about security technology, but they never do?
I think that more and more there's this assumption that people have that some vague they just solves problems. And so both in security and everywhere else, I think it's important for people to understand how the world works and recognize that technology is a critical piece of it, that there are processes that are a critical piece, but that they actually play a role in it too. So in terms of understanding what it is that the traveling public can do to make the process easier, rather than just kind of being a consumer and assuming that magically all things will be solved and all inconveniences will be made gone.
And with that bombshell, go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to ask, do you think this alleviates the requirements for no liquids in checked bags eventually?
So I've heard it said, and I buy into this, that CT can detect anything that you want to detect. It's just the false alarms that get you. So in order to actually square that circle and have liquids travel back on planes, I think a new orthogonal technology like X-ray diffraction is absolutely necessary to both ensure security while also allowing a broader range of materials to get on the plane, because it tells you exactly what they are. And that's the only way to safely let those things back on planes.
So now you can bring your full-size hair gel, Marlon.
Exactly. And I'll tell my 14-year-old daughter that too, who sometimes conveniently forgets to take the shampoo out of the bag before we go.
I think we have all kinds of stories like that. And having said that, with that bombshell, that's a wrap for episode 1 of season 2 of the BagFather. So thank you for today and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the BagFather. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on another baggage adventure.
And if you like what you've heard, don't forget to follow us, to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps more baggage lovers to find our show.
And if you've got a story, innovation, or opinion from the world of baggage, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us on LinkedIn or at BagFather.com.
And a big thanks to our guests of today and to everyone helping us make baggage smarter, faster, and more connected.
Until next time, safe travels, smooth transfers, and no lost luggage.